It's Fans Corner. Welcome to it, and thank you once again for making time for us. We've just watched the MTN8 semi-final first legs, 2 games back to back. The first game between Cape Town City and Orlando Pirates, a game that was postponed on Tuesday night to be played on the same day as the Sundowns and Stellenbosch game. Quite tricky because at some point you had to watch 2 games at the same time. It's quite difficult to analyze 2 games at the same time. I had to pull out 2 screens at the same time at some point and try to watch 2 games when they were overlapping. But it is what it is. The first game between Cape Town City and Orlando Pirates down at Cape Town Stadium. Firstly, my first interest is always the crowd. A decent attendance down in Cape Town, especially considering the day, the day of the week being a weekday, and also the weather conditions down there. It's quite cold, we are told, but the attendance was quite satisfying, especially under those conditions. It's always nice to see a decent crowd like that in a midweek game, and also a very interesting game, very exciting game, I have to say. As it's become a norm with most games involving Orlando Pirates. The first half belonged more to Orlando Pirates. We saw Pirates coming in with their pace and skills, which is what they do these days in their games. They were in charge of the first half. They were in charge, Lebohile Mofokeng giving Pirates a lead in the first half. Cape Town City couldn't really cope. Pirates didn't need much time to gel. It makes sense because they played over the weekend, so they've just come out of a game. But that also played against them in the second half, because what we saw in the first half is not what we saw in the second half. In the first half, we saw a Pirates that was dominating possession, was also creating chances and causing troubles for Cape Town City. And if you, especially on the left flank of Orlando Pirates, where Pirates was operating, the left wing where Lebohile Mofokeng was operating, it was quite difficult for Mkhize to deal with Mofokeng. The pace of Mofokeng was just too much, especially Mkhize is quite old in the right back of Cape Town City. He couldn't really cope with the pace of Mofokeng there. And also on the left, Pirates was quite pacey and also skillful as usual. That's what they do. But come the second half, I think now that's where the second half, the halftime talk came in. I think Eric Tintler showed how smart he is and how much he is, how good he is at reading a football game. Because I think they realized that in the first half, what they tried to do was to press Pirates. And like I said in the previous video, it's difficult to press Pirates with that pace and those skills. So what I think what he then opted to do in the second half was to say we can't outplay them. Cape Town City couldn't outplay Orlando Pirates. So what they did was to try and match them in terms of pace. And that was going to work because obviously Pirates, the legs would be gone in the second half as a team that played over the weekend. Cape Town City, they were well relaxed, they were well rested, so they would have the legs would carry them much longer than Pirates. And also, what they also tried to do in the second half was to try, instead of pressing Pirates, they tried to attack the spaces where the ball was going to be played. All the channels, they tried to close the channels where the ball would be played. You know, that is why you saw in the second half there were so many interceptions by Cape Town City. Instead of focusing on the men with the ball, they focused at the on the space where the ball would be played. That is why we saw a lot of interceptions there. A lot of the Pirates passes did not reach the men where it was the way they were intended to be. They were intended to be played. That's what I think Cape Town City did so well in the second half. And if you saw how they started the second half, Cape Town City, they started the second half with so much pace. They dominated the second half from the first whistle almost towards the end. We saw Pirates trying to come back after the equalizer from Cape Town City, but at that time it was too late. So I think Eric Tintler, you have to give kudos to Eric Tintler for reading the game the way he did, and the way and obviously his team talk over the halftime. I think that worked for them. So Cape Town City, but with the game being a home game for Cape Town City, obviously it means it's still advantage Orlando Pirates. A 1-1 draw favors Orlando Pirates going into the second leg in Orlando. with an away goal, because now that forces Cape Town City to come out in the second half. They can't, in the second leg, they can't afford to go to Orlando and try to defend. And obviously, if you try to attack Orlando Pirates, you are obviously going to have to deal with them coming at you with their pace and skills. So it's almost guaranteed that it's going to be a game of goals in the second leg at the Orlando Stadium. It was quite an exciting game. I really enjoyed that game. The second game, I didn't quite catch much of it, but the second half I did see a little bit of it. But again, it's it's another game where you have to praise the coach. I think if you were to compare the two games between Pirates and Cape Town City and Sundowns and Stellenbosch, the two away teams here went for two different approaches. If you look at what Steve Barker did not really go to Pretoria to get a win. I think he would have been content with a draw. A goalless draw would have worked for him. So I don't think they didn't really go all out to try and attack Mamelodi Sundowns. And of course, we know why it's not a good idea to try and attack Mamelodi Sundowns. But in the first half, they tried to defend a little bit. They did create a few chances. There was one chance where I feel like Stellenbosch could have gone ahead of Mamelodi Sundowns in the first half, but they didn't take their chances. But they tried to contain Mamelodi Sundowns in this first half, trying to frustrate them. And in the second half, they continued where they left off. And that is why they scored through a very, very soft, I know it's quite a controversial penalty, but it has become a norm in the PSL. We see these things all the time, these kinds of decisions given. It could have been given in another game, in another situation, it would have not been given. But it is what it is. Stellenbosch got a goal through a penalty in the second half, and that's a very crucial away goal. And knowing Coach Steve Barker, remember, this is a guy who also won the Carling Cup last season, so he knows how to play cup competitions as well. We know Sundowns, they don't really do very well in this competition, in the MTN8. So we now having to go to Stellenbosch with trailing Stellenbosch. They have to score. Remember, they have to score at Stellenbosch. And I think looking at how Stellenbosch are playing, they can contain Mamelodi Sundowns. Sundowns looked a little bit like a shadow of themselves. Because they didn't look like the Sundowns that we are used to. I think in the previous game where they played in the last 8, the quarterfinals, they looked a little bit better than they did this time around. I guess it also has to do with the opponents that they were facing, because we have to give credit to Coach Steve Barker. He has built this Stellenbosch team into a very formidable and a stable, solid team there. It's not an easy team. It's not a walkover of a team. It's a team that competes in all fronts. You saw what they did in the league last season. We also saw how they performed in cup competitions as well. Remember, this is a Stellenbosch team that also had a run of about 20, 25, I can't remember the exact number of games unbeaten at some point last season. So it's a team that's not very easy to beat. That's why I'm saying this could be a very exciting one going into the second leg, because Sundowns have to go all out to try and win the game, and also Stellenbosch are not going to just lie down there to be beaten. But if there's a team that knows how to beat Stellenbosch, it is Mamelodi Sundowns, because you'd remember between that period of 20 or so games unbeaten, they were beaten only by Sundowns. They were beaten by Sundowns, and then they went on for about 20 to 25 games unbeaten, and then they were beaten again after 25 games by Mamelodi Sundowns. So we can't write Sundowns off, but equally so, we have to admit that this is going to be a very difficult game at Stellenbosch for Mamelodi Sundowns. I can't wait for the two second legs actually. But with the Pirates one, knowing Jose Rivero over the past 2 seasons that we've seen him in the cup competitions, I think Pirates have one leg in the finals already. They already have an away goal. Tintler, in as much as I respect him and I know he's a very good coach who can read the game, I think he has his work cut out for him in this one. It's going to be a very tricky one. But that's why I'm saying that it then makes the second leg in both fixtures quite an exciting one. We can't wait to see that, and we also can't wait for the season to start. Let us know what you think in the comment section, and also don't forget to subscribe and like our videos. Till we meet again, thank you for making time for us. This has been Fans Corner.